pot of beef stew for someone, here's the ingredients I'm going to use. We're going to use some beef stew meat. I've washed my beef stew meat off using lime juice, salt, and cold water, and then we pat it dry with a paper towel. Be sure to take off any extra fat that may be on it. You're going to need a really interesting ingredient, red wine, okay? And you can get the cheap kind, all right? And you're going to need some beef bouillon concentrate. If for some reason you can't find it, it's okay to use beef bouillon powder or a beef broth. We're gonna put some thyme in, fresh thyme, not the dry thyme. I don't do dry thyme. You're gonna need a nice sweet Vidalia onion, a fresh garlic clove. We have a beautiful green bell pepper, some nice fresh carrots here, and then I also have some celery. In today's recipe, I'm not going to use potatoes and I'm not going to use the butternut squash. When I'm making it for my family, I put potatoes and I put the butternut squash, but this is going to be super simple, but it's going to have so much flavor. You're going to need some flour, of course, and then you're going to need some spices and make everything come together and taste super delicious. We have salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and parsley flakes. Make sure your hands are impeccably clean. Let's get started with this simple beef stew. Gina Young style. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our lovely beef after you trim it from the fat, making sure that it's nice and clean. You're going to put a tiny bit of oil in the bottom of your pan. Not a whole lot, just enough really to coat the bottom of the pan and help to get a nice sear onto our beautiful meat. Okay, so just like that, if you don't hear that sizzle, wait to put more in, okay? And I want to make sure that it's not on top of each other, because if it's on top of each other, it will steam and you won't get that nice sear. When you get a beautiful sear onto your meat, what that means is you're going to lock in the juices, right? We want to lock in the juices and the amazing flavor. We're going to season the meat, but we're not going to season it right now, okay? Let's worry about getting a nice sear onto it, just like so. In the meantime, we got vegetables we need to cut. So now typically if I was making a beef stew for my house, like I said, I'll just reiterate what I said earlier, I would be using butternut squash in mine and potatoes. So now I'm cooking this small batch of beef stew for an older family, okay, that lives in the neighborhood, and they don't do potatoes and they don't know what butternut squash is, right? So I decided to, to leave those two out, but it's gonna be super delicious. This recipe is gonna come together so quickly with, the weather beginning to get nice and cold. This is the type of recipes that people's wanting. Something that's gonna warm you up, right? Something to stick to your bones a little bit. Let's go ahead and whack our garlic, okay? Fresh garlic and garlic powder is gonna amp up the flavor always. A lot of people ask me, they say, well, if you're using fresh garlic, how come you're using garlic powder? Because it just amps up the flavor even more, and I'm always looking for that. So now here's what we're gonna do. Let's chop this. Just like so. We don't want big, huge pieces. You don't want your family, friends, loved ones, or whoever you're feeding to bite down into a big old piece of garlic, right? So take your time to chop it down in this manner. Gorgeous. And then we're going to cut up some celery. I may only need like one piece. Wash your celery off. Wash any veggies off that you bring home. You never know who's handled your veggies, at the local market. And then, you want to wash off those pesticides, right? When I use celery and it comes with these, I use it. It's such good flavor, and you just don't want to throw it away, right? We're going to chop this down just like so. Just a rough chop, nothing super hard. All right, we're going to do the onion and the bell pepper the same way. All right. There we go, beautiful. I hope you're having a great day today. And if you're not, hopefully I can brighten up your day with this amazing recipe. Tell me, somebody, when is the last time you had delicious beef stew? Beef stew you couldn't stop thinking about, right? That's what this recipe is. It's so tasty, super simple to make. And when I make beef stew, everybody, it goes so fast. Like I can make a big, huge pot and it goes so fast because it tastes so good. So now we're going to try to tackle this onion here without crying. Please, Lord. I don't want to cry today. I got my eye makeup is on fleek right now. And I just don't want this onion to make me cry right now. So let's try to get through. It always happens. Let's try to get through it without crying. So I'm going to do a rough chop here. Once again, this is a super small onion, so I think I'm going to use the whole onion. when you're making a beef stew, you're always going to use some flour. The flour will coat the vegetables after we begin to cook them a little bit. And once that happens, the flour will even make a nice sort of like gravy, you know, make it stewy. Right? And what does stewy mean? Well, that's super funny word. It's not really a word. But what I mean by stewy is soup is more liquidy and watery. Stew is a little bit thicker. So that's what I mean when I say the flour will thicken it up and make it stewy. Gina, make up the words as you go. That's all I can do because I ain't about to edit it. I ain't about to edit it. Cut some bell pepper, and we're going to do it the same way we did our onions. Just a nice rough chop. I do have a beautiful tomato in the refrigerator. I may break it out and throw it into the recipe towards the end of the cooking process. If you decide that you ever want to use a fresh tomato in the recipe, you always use it towards the end of the cooking process. Because if you put it in early when you put all your other vegetables in, it's going to turn into mush and we don't want that, right? I may do that, okay? Now, sometimes if I don't have a tomato, I'll put about a tablespoon of ketchup in there. Oh my goodness, ketchup will make your beef stew taste spectacular. Okay, so now, beautiful. Let's put all of our veggies right here, just like so. And as soon as we get that char that we're looking for onto our meat, we'll take our meat out of the pan. And your meat doesn't have to be fully cooked right now. The reason why is because when we reiterate our meat in with the vegetables and the broth and everything, we're going to let it stew for a while and let it simmer. And during that time that it goes back into the pan, it'll get fully cooked. Right now, we're just waiting to get a nice char onto it, just like so. To see that nice char that I was talking about. That's the color that we're looking for. It's going to lock in the flavors and all the meat is out of the pan. And we're left with this little fond in the bottom. That's what that's called. All those little beautiful bits that taste so amazing, right? And so some of the oil was absorbed, of course, by the meat. So I needed to put a little bit more oil in because now it's time to saute our vegetables, give them some good flavor, and begin to soften them. I'm going to go ahead and put the thyme in. Once the little pieces come off of the thyme, then you can look inside of the stew and take these little sticks off, or you could just do it this way to get all the pieces off and discard of the stick now. So it's really up to you, however you want to do that. Okay, beautiful. Let's go ahead, get that in. And the garlic just went in with the onions and the bell peppers and the thyme. We're not going to put our carrots in right now. One thing that I'm not a fan of is mushy carrots, okay? So the carrots can go in towards the end of the cooking process, but you still want to give them enough time to, you know, get nice and soft. So we're going to stir these around just a little bit, make sure they're coated in the oil. Once they begin to soften and the onions begin to get nice and translucent, we're going to come in with a really interesting ingredient, which is going to be our flour. And we're just going to sprinkle some flour onto the veggies, okay? And that's going to help thicken up our stew as it cooks, okay? Beautiful. Now I want to talk about something. The bouillon concentrate, which is the beef flavor in our case today. If you're going to use it, just be really careful because it has salt in it. Like me, today I'm going to use some extra salt. So just kind of, you know, weigh it out, how much you want to put in, being mindful that this has salt in it as well. But I'm going to tell you one thing, this right here is going to give anything amazing flavor, trust me. We're putting our butternut squash and potatoes in. Now is the perfect time to put it in with all these veggies. I'll show you what these veggies look like. Look at that. Look, that's what I want your veggies to look like before you coat them with the flour. So watch how much. Not a lot, just a little bit, just enough to coat it and make a nice thick stew, okay? That's plenty enough, all right? Coat the veggies just like this, in this manner. Beautiful. We're going to be adding our liquid. Whether you're adding a broth or water, we're going to season it real good to make it have flavor, and this beef concentrate is going to do the trick. Let's let that flour taste cook off for about 3 to 4 minutes. Let's go ahead and add our meat in. We let the raw flour taste kind of cook off for about 3 to 4 minutes. Back in with the beautiful beef, just like so. All right, gorgeous. We'll move everything around just like this in this manner. On out, the recipe comes together super quick. Okay, so I have some water here. I'm just gonna pour some in the pan. If I was making a big batch, I'd probably like use my wok, you know, something much deeper. Okay, so the water is literally coming up halfway up the meat, okay? The water is about halfway up the pan. We're gonna put this in. Concentrate, beef bouillon concentrate. Get you some if you've never had it before. Kind of move it around, but if it stays in a clump, don't worry, because we're gonna cook this so long, it'll dissolve a little bit, okay? I decided to go ahead and put 2 tablespoons of ketchup in, okay? Your favorite ketchup, just like so. All right, beautiful. We're gonna move everything around, and then we're gonna season this thing, make it taste good, okay? That's how you build flavors. Let's go in with some black pepper. Nice amount of black pepper. But since I'm gonna be making this for someone else, I don't wanna use too much. Same thing with the salt. That's plenty enough. Okay, I'm gonna go pretty heavy on the garlic powder. Oh yes, are you kidding me? Same thing with the onions, pretty heavy on it. Great flavor we have there. Okay, I'm all excited. If I haven't told you all, I hope you're having a great day. I hope your Saturday is absolutely amazing. When it comes to the red wine, you can put it in to deglaze the pan, like right after you take the meat out of the pan, if you want to, or you can really just put it in whenever you want, okay? Just don't get carried away with it, because you don't want a lot. Just a little bit goes a long way, and it really gives it umami. That umami flavor, make them say, ooh, mommy. Where did this recipe come from? Look at this. Plenty enough, okay? Just that little bit. Will it taste like alcohol? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. It doesn't give it a wine taste. Really, it does not. Okay, it really amps up the flavor, okay? So now we're gonna plan on cooking this until the beef gets tender. Once I take a piece of that beef out, I taste it and it's nice and tender. That's gonna be the perfect time for me to come in with my carrots. Whether you're using the fresh carrots that you're cutting up or you're using this kind, you put them in later on during the cooking process. I'll slice a little bit of our beautiful tomato, and I just like to slice them into quarters. You don't want to overwhelm the recipe with too much tomatoes, but a little bit in there. Oh my goodness, I love a warm tomato. I want to hear from you guys about a tomato cooked. Do you guys like cooked tomatoes like I do? Because I go nuts. I go absolutely nuts over a cooked tomato that's not mushy. Oh my goodness, it tastes so good to me. But I do know that there's some people out there that don't like cooked tomatoes. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. So here's what I'll do. I'll do it like this. Okay, this will be perfect. Gorgeous. The whole house smells absolutely amazing. It's Saturday, and I tell you what, my neighbors are in for a super treat. It's only 2 of them, and like I said, they're older, and I just know that they will love this nice, hearty, warm beef stew that's going to be packed with flavor. Yes, they will. When I was talking about how the flour, and you guys were laughing at me. I was talking about how the flour will make it a stewy consistency. Look at this. Oh, perfect. That's what we're wanting. I figure I'm going to let it cook for a little bit longer because I want the meat to get super tender, okay? So we're going to continue to let it cook. It's almost as if it's a gravy. Beautiful. Look at that. Can you imagine what it smells like in here right now? It's the perfect time. The meat is super tender. We're going to put some carrots in. Y'all know how I am with carrots. I'm not a fan of carrots, but that doesn't mean that other people don't like carrots, right? So I'm going to put some in, but I'm not going to overwhelm the recipe with carrots, okay? I love the beautiful color that it brings. Sure I do. All right, it's going to bring a great taste. I feel like maybe just 2 more carrots. Perfect for this small batch. Look at this, y'all. Are you absolutely kidding me? Make you some Gina Young style. You're gonna love this recipe. When those carrots get nice and soft, then we'll go ahead and put tomatoes in. Tomato is your option. That's what I call a stew. Look at how it has really cooked down. nice and thick. Now's the perfect time. If you're going to put tomatoes in there, put some in. Serve this over white rice. Serve this with brown rice. You could serve this with mashed potatoes or couscous. Just serve it because it's super delicious. Listen to me. If you all enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you ain't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Tell your family and friends. Tell everyone you know what Gina Young's doing in this kitchen on a daily basis. Get in that kitchen and make you some beef stew, Gina Young style. Make you some. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a video for how I like to make beef stew for my family, where I put the potatoes and the butternut squash in. Look at this. Look at this, guys. Look at it, everybody. Make you some Gina Young style. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this meal. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.